Imagine for a moment a life carved from the relentless wind and vast, unyielding plains of Montana. A life where the nearest neighbor is a distant speck on the horizon, and the daily rhythm is dictated by the sun, the cattle, and a profound, almost palpable silence. This is the existence of James Harper, a solitary rancher whose world is as expansive as the landscape around him, yet as confined as his own isolated routines. For years, James has known little beyond the rugged self-sufficiency demanded by his land. His days a monotonous cycle of labor, devoid of the unexpected and certainly devoid of the extravagant. He's a man who has long since reconciled himself to a life outside the bustling currents of modern society, far removed from its technological marvels and its intricate web of human connections. Then, one evening, as the Montana sky bleeds into hues of amber and violet, a stark, almost alien presence materializes at his doorstep. Not a stray calf nor a wandering coyote, but a sleek, silent, futuristic vehicle, a Tesla Model Y. Its polished surface reflects the last vestiges of daylight, an impossible beacon of cutting-edge innovation in a place time seems to have forgotten. James, a man whose hands are calloused from working the land, whose eyes are accustomed to recognizing the subtle shifts in weather patterns, is utterly bewildered. This isn't just a car. It's an anomaly, a fragment of a different world dropped unceremoniously into his own. The mystery deepens with a message on his phone, an unexpected ping in a world where signals are often non-existent. A gift from someone who believes in the future. Enjoy the ride, James. And then, the name that sends a jolt through his isolated existence, Elon Musk. The sheer improbability of it is staggering. Why would one of the world's most influential and visionary billionaires bestow such a high-tech marvel upon a forgotten rancher in the middle of nowhere? This isn't just a random act of generosity. It's a deliberate, almost theatrical gesture that shatters the quiet equilibrium of James Harper's life. This extraordinary event, this collision of the hypermodern with the deeply traditional, serves as a powerful lens through which we can explore some of the most compelling questions of our time. It's a narrative that forces us to confront the profound impact of technology on individual lives, especially those on the fringes of the digital revolution. How does such an unexpected, disruptive force reshape a life steeped in solitude and self-reliance? What happens when the cutting edge of innovation meets the raw, untamed heart of rural America? The arrival of this electric vehicle isn't merely about a car. It's about connection, or the lack thereof. It's about the silent void that isolation can create, and the surprising ways in which progress, often perceived as impersonal, can forge entirely new pathways for human engagement. This seemingly simple gift ignites a chain of events that catapults James from obscurity into the national spotlight, transforming him from a forgotten figure into an unlikely symbol. His journey from the dusty plains to the gleaming corridors of Silicon Valley compels us to consider the broader implications of technological advancement, not just in terms of efficiency or convenience, but in its capacity to redefine purpose, community, and even identity. As James grapples with the mysteries surrounding this gift and the grand vision it represents, we are invited to ponder critical questions about the future of sustainable technology, the evolving landscape of rural communities, and the very essence of human connection in an increasingly digital world. Can a machine, no matter how advanced, truly fill the void of a lonely soul? Can the shock of an improbable gift truly become the greatest blessing? Or is it merely an unexpected burden? This journey of discovery, inspired by an impossible scenario, promises to unveil layers of insight into what truly matters when the worlds of innovation and human experience dramatically intersect. The profound solitude experienced by James Harper, a condition often romanticized but rarely understood in its full depth, serves as a poignant starting point for understanding a pervasive modern phenomenon, the paradox of isolation in an hyper-connected, World. While James's isolation is geographical, stemming from the vast, sparsely populated landscapes of rural Montana, it mirrors a growing sense of detachment felt by many, even those surrounded by bustling cities and constant digital chatter. Historically, human communities thrived on proximity and shared labor, forming intricate social bonds essential for survival and emotional well-being. From ancient tribal structures to the close-knit farming communities of previous centuries, daily life inherently fostered interaction, mutual reliance, and a sense of belonging. The very design of early settlements, with central markets and communal gathering places, reinforced this intrinsic human need for connection. However, as societies industrialized and urbanized, and as technology advanced, the nature of human interaction began to shift. The move from agrarian societies to specialized labor, the rise of individualistic philosophies, and eventually, the advent of digital communication, all contributed to a gradual redefinition of community. For someone like James, whose life is a direct continuation of a more isolated, land-dependent existence, the arrival of a Tesla represents not just a technological leap, but a direct challenge to his established paradigm of self-sufficiency. It forces a confrontation with a world he consciously or unconsciously chose to remain separate from, highlighting the fundamental tension between a desire for independence and the inherent human need for connection. This unexpected intrusion into his solitary world is a compelling narrative device to explore the deeper historical and sociological roots of isolation, and how external forces, even though seemingly benign like a gift, can shatter established patterns of existence, compelling individuals to reevaluate their place within a larger, interconnected global tapestry. It sets the stage for a dramatic exploration of how technology, which often appears to exacerbate isolation through digital screens, can also paradoxically become a bridge to new forms of engagement and community, fundamentally altering the landscape of human experience. At the core of James Harper's bewildering experience lies the tangible manifestation of modern technological marvels, the Tesla Model Y. This vehicle, far from being a mere mode of transport, embodies a confluence of groundbreaking engineering, sustainable energy, and sophisticated computational power. Its electric powertrain, for instance, represents a radical departure from the internal combustion engine that has dominated personal mobility for over a century. Instead of relying on fossil fuels, the Model Y draws power from a large battery pack, providing instant torque, silent operation, and zero tailpipe emissions. This shift is not just an incremental improvement. It signifies a fundamental reimagining of how we power our lives and move through the world, addressing pressing environmental concerns and paving the way for a cleaner future. Beyond its propulsion system, the Tesla is a rolling computer, integrated with advanced software that governs everything from navigation and entertainment to autonomous driving capabilities. Features like over-the-air updates mean the car can continuously improve and gain new functionalities long after it leaves the factory, blurring the lines between a physical product and a digital service. Its minimalist interior, dominated by a large central touchscreen, reflects a design philosophy that prioritizes intuitive interaction and seamless connectivity. For someone like James, accustomed to the mechanical simplicity of ranch equipment and the rugged functionality of traditional vehicles, the Model Y is an almost alien artifact. It challenges his understanding of what a machine can be, moving beyond gears and pistons to algorithms and data streams. This car, in essence, is a microcosm of the fourth industrial revolution, where physical and digital worlds merge, and where artificial intelligence and automation are increasingly integrated into everyday objects. The Model Y's arrival at James's remote ranch also highlights the accelerating pace of technological diffusion. What once took decades to move from invention to widespread adoption now happens in years or even months. This rapid spread of innovation driven by global connectivity and entrepreneurial ambition, means that even the most isolated corners of the world are no longer immune to the transformative power of cutting-edge technology. It forces us to consider the practical implications of such rapid change, the need for new infrastructure, the development of new skills, and the psychological adjustment required to adapt to a world constantly being reshaped by invention. The arrival of the Tesla Model Y at James Harper's isolated ranch, a seemingly random act of generosity, quickly transcends its initial shock value to reveal profound broader implications for society, technology, and the future of rural communities. This isn't just about one man receiving a luxury car. It's a symbolic collision of two vastly different worlds, highlighting the widening chasm between innovation hubs and traditional, often underserved, rural areas. One significant implication lies in the concept of sustainable technologies. Rural areas frequently lag in infrastructure development, whether it's high-speed internet, charging stations for electric vehicles, or even basic cellular coverage. James's story underscores the potential for targeted, high-impact interventions to bridge this gap, demonstrating how a single piece of advanced technology can act as a catalyst for awareness and demand for broader infrastructural improvements. Furthermore, the narrative touches upon the evolving role of philanthropy in the age of tech billionaires. Unlike traditional charitable donations, which often focus on immediate relief or established social programs, this gift is presented as part of a larger, visionary plan to revolutionize rural America with sustainable technology. This suggests a new model of philanthropic endeavor, one that is not merely reactive but proactive, aiming to disrupt existing paradigms and accelerate societal shifts towards a preferred future. It raises questions about the ethics and efficacy of such top-down technological interventions, and whether they genuinely empower communities or simply impose external solutions. Beyond infrastructure and philanthropy, James's story illuminates the psychological and social impact of sudden technological immersion. For someone accustomed to a slow, deliberate pace of life, the instantaneous connectivity, advanced features, and constant updates of a Tesla represent an overwhelming leap. This forces a consideration of digital literacy, not just as the ability to use a computer, but as the capacity to integrate complex smart technologies into daily life without feeling alienated or overwhelmed. It also sparks conversations about the preservation of traditional lifestyles in the face of relentless progress, and whether these two forces are inherently contradictory or can find a symbiotic balance. The public fascination with James's story further highlights society's complex relationship with celebrity, wealth, and the promise of a technologically advanced future. It becomes a mirror reflecting collective hopes for progress, fears of being left behind, and the enduring human desire for connection, even in the most improbable circumstances. As James Harper's improbable journey unfolds, it inevitably brings to light common misconceptions, challenges, and even controversies surrounding the very themes his experience embodies: rural development, sustainable technology adoption, and the impact of visionary figures like Elon Musk. One prevailing myth is that rural communities are inherently resistant to technological change, preferring traditional methods out of stubbornness or lack of foresight. While a degree of skepticism towards untested innovations is natural, the reality is often more nuanced. The primary obstacles are typically infrastructural: lack of reliable broadband, insufficient charging infrastructure for EVs, or limited access to skilled technicians. For example, while the Tesla Model Y is a marvel, its true utility in a remote Montana ranch depends heavily on access to robust charging solutions, which are often scarce outside urban centers. The narrative implicitly challenges the idea that rural areas are technophobe enclaves, suggesting instead that given the right infrastructure and support, these communities are just as eager to embrace solutions that improve efficiency, reduce costs, and enhance quality of life. Another misconception often revolves around the environmental impact of electric vehicles. While EVs offer zero tailpipe emissions, their overall carbon footprint depends on the source of electricity used for charging. If the grid is heavily reliant on fossil fuels, the cleanliness of an EV is diminished. This highlights the broader challenge of transitioning to a truly sustainable energy ecosystem, where EV adoption must go hand in hand with investments in renewable energy sources like solar and wind, particularly in remote areas where grid reliability can be an issue. Furthermore, the story indirectly addresses the controversies surrounding techno-utopianism, the belief that technology alone can solve all societal problems. While Musk's grand vision for sustainable technology and electric mobility is inspiring, relying solely on technological solutions without addressing underlying social, economic, and political complexities can lead to unintended consequences. For instance, simply providing EVs to rural areas without considering local economic realities, job displacement, or the need for community input might create new dependencies rather than genuine empowerment. The public's fascination with James's story also mirrors a broader debate about the role of billionaires in shaping global narratives and technological trajectories. While their resources can accelerate innovation, concerns about concentrated power, accountability, and whether their visions truly align with the diverse needs of humanity often arise. James's journey from isolated rancher to participant in a high-stakes project becomes a microcosm for these larger societal questions, forcing a balanced examination of the promises and pitfalls inherent in rapid technological advancement and large-scale visionary initiatives, challenging simplistic narratives about progress and impact. As James Harper's extraordinary journey culminates, leaving behind the dust of his Montana ranch for the gleaming, futuristic landscapes of Silicon Valley, his story offers a profound reflection on the intersection of human experience and technological progress. What began as an improbable gift from a tech titan to a lonely rancher evolved into a narrative far grander than anyone could have imagined, challenging deeply held assumptions about isolation, connection, and the very definition of a fulfilling life. The Tesla Model Y, initially a symbol of bewildering modernity in a world of rugged tradition, ultimately became a conduit for transformation, not just for James, but for our understanding of how innovation can permeate and reshape even the most secluded corners of existence. James's unexpected role in a groundbreaking initiative to revolutionize rural America with sustainable technology and electric mobility underscores a critical insight that progress is not merely about creating new gadgets, but about how those innovations are integrated into, and indeed, elevate human lives. It highlights the potential for technology to bridge divides, whether geographical, social, or emotional, by fostering new forms of community and purpose. The encounter between James's solitary world and Elon Musk's grand vision forces us to confront our own relationship with the accelerating pace of change. Are we passive recipients of technological advancement, or active participants in shaping its ethical and societal impact? Can a high-tech car truly fill the void of a man's soul, or does it merely open pathways for deeper, more meaningful human connections to flourish? James's story suggests the latter. The true shock in his journey was not just the unexpected gift, but the revelation that genuine fulfillment often lies not in what we acquire, but in the connections we forge and the purpose we discover through unexpected encounters. His path from profound isolation to a central role in a global movement reminds us that human resilience, adaptability, and the innate desire for belonging remain paramount, even in a world increasingly defined by algorithms and artificial intelligence. Ultimately, James Harper's improbable adventure serves as a powerful testament to the enduring value of curiosity and continued learning. It encourages us to look beyond the surface of the extraordinary, to question the familiar, and to embrace the unforeseen possibilities that arise when the worlds of technology, human spirit, and collective ambition dramatically intersect. What other hidden truths lie waiting to be uncovered, just beyond the horizon of our current understanding? The journey of discovery, much like James's, is an endless one, fueled by an insatiable wonder at the world and our place within its ever-unfolding narrative. As James Harper immersed himself deeper into the vibrant, almost dizzying ecosystem of innovation, the initial awe he felt began to yield to a more complex understanding of the colossal undertaking he was now part of. The polished surfaces of the corporate campuses, the relentless hum of activity, and the sheer intellectual horsepower concentrated in one place presented a stark contrast to his solitary existence. He soon learned that the pursuit of a grand vision, however noble its outward appearance, often demanded a profound internal sacrifice from those driving it. The relentless pace, the expectation of round-the-clock dedication, and the intense pressure to innovate at breakneck speed were not merely characteristics of this environment. They were its very lifeblood, often blurring the lines between personal well-being and professional obligation. A crucial layer to this understanding came as James began to witness the immense human cost behind the dazzling technological breakthroughs. He observed the weary eyes of engineers who had pulled countless all-nighters, the strained relationships among colleagues driven by fierce competition, and the quiet anxieties of those constantly fearing obsolescence in a field that moved at light speed. It was a world built on daring ambition, certainly, but also on an unspoken expectation of relentless self-optimization, where personal lives often took a backseat to project deadlines. This revelation struck a discordant note with James, who, despite his isolation, had always valued the unhurried rhythms of nature and the spent rather than a day merely maximized for output. He began to discern that even the most revolutionary ideas carried a shadow, a hidden toll exacted from the very individuals striving to bring them to fruition. Furthermore, James discovered that the grand vision he was now entangled in, while undeniably geared towards positive global change, also navigated a treacherous landscape of intricate financial maneuvers and high-stakes corporate politics. He encountered the subtle yet pervasive influence of investors, the strategic alliances formed and broken, and the constant balancing act between idealistic goals and market realities. It wasn't merely about creating groundbreaking sustainable solutions. It was also about securing patents, outmaneuvering competitors, and navigating the complex web of regulatory frameworks. This exposure to the ruthless pragmatism underlying monumental innovation forced James to reevaluate his initial, perhaps naive, perception of the venture as purely altruistic. He realized that even the most world-changing endeavors operated within a system driven by profit and power, requiring difficult compromises that sometimes challenged his own innate sense of fairness and simplicity. Consequently, these deeper insights into the machinations of the tech world compelled James to confront his own previously dormant fears and desires. Living in solitude, his aspirations had been distilled to basic survival and the quiet dignity of a self-sufficient life. Now thrust into a whirlwind of global impact and immense wealth, he found himself grappling with new anxieties: the fear of losing his authentic self amidst the glitz, the fear of becoming a mere pawn in a larger game, and the unexpected desire for a different kind of connection, one that transcended professional alliances and superficial admiration. He yearned for the genuine, unvarnished human interaction he had perhaps unconsciously suppressed during his years of isolation. The pressure to perform, to articulate his unique perspective, and to adapt to a world utterly foreign to him became a crucible, forging a new identity for James, one that was both exhilarating and profoundly unsettling. Building on this, however, James also began to forge unexpected bonds within this high-pressure environment. He encountered individuals who, despite their outward drive and ambition, harbored similar internal conflicts and yearned for authentic connection. These nascent friendships, born out of shared vulnerabilities and late-night discussions, offered a counterpoint to the relentless corporate machine. He found solace in conversations with engineers who quietly lamented the lost evenings with family, or designers who wrestled with the ethical implications of their creations. These relationships, unlike anything he had known on the ranch, presented a new kind of community, one built not on shared physical space, but on shared intellectual pursuits and a mutual understanding of the unique burdens of their collective endeavor. This demonstrated to James that even in the most technologically advanced settings, the fundamental human need for empathy and genuine companionship remained an enduring constant. The weight of becoming an unlikely public figure, a symbol of rural America's potential embrace of the future, also pressed heavily upon James. Every interaction, every public appearance was scrutinized, and he felt the immense burden of representing more than just himself. This newfound visibility brought with it the paradoxical sensation of being both seen and utterly exposed, amplifying his internal struggles and forcing him to define his own narrative amidst the clamor of external expectations. It was a journey of self-discovery accelerated by an unprecedented collision of worlds, demanding that he navigate not only the technological marvels around him, but also the shifting dynamics of his own evolving identity and purpose. The deeper James delved into the intricacies of the grand vision, the more he understood that the Tesla Model Y was merely a tangible artifact, a gleaming herald of something far more ambitious and, to his traditional sensibilities, almost unsettling. He learned that Musk's true objective extended well beyond merely electrifying transportation. It encompassed a radical reimagining of rural infrastructure itself, aiming to weave every aspect of life into a meticulously optimized, data-driven network. This wasn't just about sustainable energy. It was about creating self-sustaining, hyper-efficient enclaves across the vast, often overlooked American heartland, leveraging artificial intelligence to manage everything from agricultural yields to localized energy grids. Think of it, not just smart homes, but smart regions, where resources are allocated with algorithmic precision, and every environmental variable is monitored to maximize output and minimize waste. A more startling facet of this plan involved the concept of predictive living. James discovered that the vast amounts of data collected from electric vehicles, smart devices, and even environmental sensors were intended to feed into sophisticated AI models designed to anticipate community needs, optimize supply chains, and even suggest behavioral patterns for peak efficiency. For instance, energy consumption in a small town could be dynamically adjusted based on real-time weather forecasts and household demand patterns, minimizing reliance on external grids, while presented as a boon for sustainability and resource management. This level of pervasive monitoring and algorithmic governance struck a dissonant chord with James's deeply ingrained sense of privacy and individual autonomy. The promise of seamless convenience, he began to realize, might come at the cost of spontaneous human choice and the organic, often inefficient, beauty of self-directed community life. Furthermore, the vision entailed a significant shift in the very nature of labor within these reimagined rural landscapes. Automation, far from being confined to factories, was projected to extend into agriculture, logistics, and even local services, powered by renewable energy and interconnected by high-speed networks. Robotic harvesters, drone-based delivery systems, and AI-driven farm management were integral components. This raised profound questions for James about human purpose and the future of traditional skills. If machines could perform the arduous tasks that had defined generations of rural existence, what would become of the people whose identities were inextricably linked to those very labors? It presented a curious paradox, a future designed to liberate humanity from drudgery, yet one that might inadvertently strip away the very meaning and dignity derived from that work. Consequently, James found himself grappling with a profound ethical dilemma. On one hand, the environmental benefits and potential for widespread prosperity within these optimized communities were undeniable. Imagine vast tracts of land revitalized, clean energy flowing freely, and food production becoming incredibly efficient. Conversely, he couldn't shake the unsettling feeling that such pervasive optimization might inadvertently homogenize unique local cultures and erode the rugged individualism that had long characterized rural life. He pondered whether a perfectly efficient world was necessarily a perfectly human one, or if the inherent messiness, the unpredictable charm of human decision-making and community evolution, was precisely what made life rich and meaningful. This wasn't merely a technological challenge. It was a philosophical one, forcing James to weigh the allure of progress against the subtle, often unseen, cost to the human spirit. This deeper understanding of the vision's true scope and its potential ramifications resonated directly with James's most deeply seated fears and nascent desires. His fear of being a mere pawn in a larger game intensified as he saw how individual lives could be subsumed into a grand, data-driven matrix. His desire for genuine human connection, which had timidly begun to surface, now seemed threatened by a future that prioritized automated efficiency over spontaneous social interaction. He began to question his own participation, not just as a symbol, but as an active participant in bringing this future to fruition. Was he inadvertently contributing to a world that, while solving one set of problems, might inadvertently create new forms of alienation? This internal struggle pushed him beyond simply adapting to the tech world. It compelled him to critically evaluate its very moral compass and his own place within its unfolding narrative.